Welcome everybody, Steve here. Today we're going to build a table. And if you've watched my stuff before, you know I'm a big fan of rustic. I like the rusted metal, so I'm going to incorporate wood and metal into this one. And this table I'm going to build, it's a plant table. It's only going to be about 24 inches off the ground. But we're going to build wooden legs. Last summer I built some workbenches that were all metal. And same concept. We're going to have the rails are going to be metal. And I've got one leg glued up. This is going to be two legs because I'll cut this into two. But what we're going to do is use this bracket that I built. I'll show you how to build that. And then basically, that bracket will go on like this. Just screw it onto the corner of your leg. And then there'll be a piece of metal bolted on like that. And I'll go to the next leg. And the nice thing about this system here is you can change the size of your table just by changing this, a piece of metal. So that's the whole concept of what I'm going to try and do here. So I'm just using plain old 2x6 simple. Go to the lumber yard, and the key to this whole thing here is buy some good wood, but put it aside, let it dry for a couple months. And that's what I've done with this. And then I borrowed a big planer and basically planed the 2x6 down to 1 inch. That's going to be my top and my lower shelf. We'll cut those up in a bit. First of all, we're going to glue the legs together. Now you're going to need a bunch of clamps. I just have my mostly just metal working clamps, but they're going to work fine. And I've jointed this edge. It's going to be nice and smooth. It's going to fit nice. And if you don't have a jointer, you may have to use a hand plane or find a jointer. So let's glue this up. You need a fairly good amount of glue. And I'm just going to use an outdoor glue. It just seems, it's that one extra step, you know, it's going to be waterproof and all that kind of thing. Last thing you need is, you know, gaps. You want a nice even coat of glue. That should be good. And to spread that all out, I just use one of these body filler little spreaders, the plastic one. They work just absolutely beautiful. A little bit more on the ends. Yep. Already open. Yeah, I'm going to try and bring some cool projects. I got some other ideas on the go, and you know, trying to make things a little bit interesting to watch. That's the tough thing about finding a YouTube channel, you know, is cool projects that interest you, and hopefully I can do that. And if I do, hey, give her a subscribe, and I'll just keep making stuff. It's hard. When you're working, YouTubing is really hard. Okay, we're nice and even. It's a good coat on there. So when we're all said and done here, probably going to get about a 2.5 by 2.5 or maybe a little bit bigger leg. We'll see what it ends up being on the table saw. for some gaps. Looks really, really good. We got one more clamp, so let's use it. We'll let this dry overnight, and then we'll take it to the table saw and cut her into a leg. Alright, next step, we're going to cut these boards here into, what I'm going to try and do here is cut them so that an 8-foot, I'll build my top about 49 inches, and then that way I have enough for the bottom because it's not going to stick out as far. So I'll utilize the whole 8-foot piece of wood. Sounds like it's going to work, doesn't it? Let's see. Stay tuned. Alright, we got our top all cut up. I got 4 pieces, so it's going to be 22 or whatever it ends up being after I straighten everything out. I've got them marked. I've got everything laid out here so that the pattern looks as good as I can get it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I've got some indicator marks where I'm going to put some biscuits so that when we glue this together, it's going to have a little bit more strength. But on the edges, you know, I could use a jointer, but I'm going to use a hand plane. And if you got a jointer, you know, go ahead and use that. It's a lot quicker. And then I want to chamfer the edge here, so it looks like there's a bit of a groove going down the where the planks meet. I don't know, just give it a little bit more of an old look. I don't want to have it nice and flat, perfect, or anything like that. Just like to have a little more rustic. Well, I'll find my plane and see if I can get these things fitting good. The bottom, same procedure, except I'm going to only glue it in 2 pieces because I may end up not having enough space to get it in there. So I may have to, you know, put it in 2 pieces. Hope you catch my drift on that one. Alright. Let's see if I can get these fitting a little bit better. Let's put a little chamfer on here now. It didn't take very long for me to straighten these out to get them fitting. They don't need to be exactly perfect, of course. So I'm just going to put a bit of a chamfer, not a whole bunch. This gives you that chance to use that wood plane that you got from Grandpa. Just using a number 10 biscuit. You can use a dowel. You can use nothing if you really wanted to. But it really helps with alignment. With the glues today, you know, you can make a pretty nice top without having a biscuit, but it still adds that little extra strength. time to glue her up. Now, I don't want glue to be dripping out on the top side of my tabletop, so I'm going to be a little bit careful about where I put the glue. Make sure you get some in the biscuit is. I'm just going to go about halfway. Still going to make sure I got suffice glue. It will squeeze up towards the top anyway, so. Alright, got it good and clamped up. Looks really good. I got a little bit of glue popping up. I'm gonna just take a wet rag, wipe that off. And it's all over me too. Everything is dry. Looks really good. So now I'm gonna cut it to length. So I'm gonna cut a little bit off this end. I'm just gonna freehand it. And during the finish process, because you know this is kind of a rustic thing, it's gonna get beat up a little bit on the ends, not too much, but you know, I'm not really worried about a perfectly cut edge. If you are, then you know, I would suggest a straight edge, all that other kind of stuff. I can do a pretty good job just by hand. Find a battery here. Got a line. There, we turn it around now and do the other side. Okay, we've got this cut to our dimension. It's ready to go on. It's ready to get finished. And our bottom shelf, remember, we glued that up in 2 pieces. And I'm not going to cut it to dimension until I know exactly where it has to go. When I get it all set up, then I get a really good measurement. And 2 pieces, just in case you can't get it all in there. You hate to glue this thing all together and can't get it in. That's why I have it in 2 pieces. If it can go in 1 piece after I'm all said and done, well, then I just glue it together. But for now, perfect. Let's cut those legs. We got everything all squared up. Now I can cut it to the size that I want. I'm going with 2.5 inch square. So I'll set everything up. I don't have a real accurate dial or gauge, so I have to use my tape measure here. Looks good. Everything's all cut up, nice and square, so it's time to cut these to length. So I'm going to need, I want the total height to be 24, my top is 1 inch, so these need to be 23. I'll square up one end first, and cut her to length. Now I'm just orientating these legs here. You can see the glue joint here. I usually put that to the outside. Have a nice face pointing out. And if I've got a knot, I'll put it on the inside. So I'll just do that. This one's really nice. Our joint was absolutely wonderful. You can barely see it, if you can see it at all. Good job. Next step, we gotta screw these on. Now, I'm gonna get a little closer, but on a piece of angle iron, it's a little rounded here. Even though we're gonna round over our edges a little bit, I'm gonna give this a little bit of a helping hand with the grinder first, and then we'll round this over a bit. And then what I want to do I didn't use a jig or anything to drill these holes, they're just kind of random. So I'm gonna mark this one. So I'll mark this one as a 1 with an arrow up, and this will be a 1, so that I know that the corresponding leg, this piece goes there, so you can't screw that up. Alright, I'm gonna go outside and do a little grinding. We'll relieve this a little bit and we'll screw this in, and then we can start putting some rails in. My rails are, oh here they are. These are them right here. I've already cut them. I've got a couple more to cut. I'll show you a couple different methods that you can use to cut it. But I've also got a jig because I built so many of this style. I just basically built a little jig so I can drill some holes. And when you do a jig, drill small holes. That way you can decide whatever size of bolt that you want. In this particular case, we're going to go with 3/8. We're not going with 3/8 bolt, we're going with carriage, but that carriage bolt will go really nice into that 3/8 hole. That's what I'm hoping. If not, we'll do a little adjusting. Okay, I'm going to grind these. I'm going to show you how to drill these holes. Well, you can watch me drill them. I've already showed you how to. Back in a bit. Well, these are exciting times. I tell you, when you start putting a project back together or together, it's kind of nice. It means that you're getting close to the end. We got a long ways to go. All right, I've done this grinding in here. Took a little bit of it out. There's probably still a little bit there that needs to be taken out. We're just going to relieve these. Now I'm just going to make an indicator mark where my piece is going to go in here so that I don't mess that up. Yep, that looks good. So we'll just take just a hand plane here. We're going to probably do all the rest of it anyway. Some of these will have little marks in here and gouges. I'll go just like that. So, I gotta find me a felt marker. We'll mark that 2 with an arrow. So we're just going to screw this, just make sure it's flush at the top here. Feels pretty good. Now when I first start screwing things in, I'll use a little shorter screw. That way you're not taking it out and wearing those threads out. So on the next time, I'll go a little longer screw. And over time, if it starts wearing out, you just go a little longer screw. So you don't want to overdo it right off the bat. You don't want to put a 2-inch screw in here right off the bat. We're going to put some nice, 3/4 ones in here. That's more than enough to hold this up. And if they wear out because you've taken them in and out, then put a little longer screw in. So these neat little projects that we're doing here, if you can just get one idea from what I'm doing on this project, that'd be awesome. Get some ideas from other people, go ahead and build your project. I've orientated these, so I got one on this side, two on this side. That way our screws are never going to meet. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Last one. Some assembly required. Looks good. I can see my vision. I think that's going to look just fine and dandy. I like it. I think it looks good. Well, we'll head back to the other shop. Finish up all the metal work. Basically, I'm going to probably run another bar across here, like this. And then I'm going to put some tabs up here so we can screw the top in. She's just about done. I like it. Alright, we'll take her apart, head her to the next shop.